So this is Julie Mansell from Gem Ministries, and this is session number 2, looking at the covenants. So what did the word covenant mean to the Eastern mind, the people that were alive when the Bible was being written? And it's more than just a mere contractual obligation between two parties. It was a means of establishing sacred bonds of kinship, and literally the word means to cut with meat, and that a choice animal was provided, and it was cut in half, and each party had to pass between the two pieces, and then a covenant meal was eaten. And this meant that if anybody violated the terms of that covenant, then he himself would be chopped in half by the other party of the covenant. And we can see that covenant with Abraham when God made a covenant with him back in Genesis chapter 15, when he said he actually put Abraham to sleep, and God himself walked between the two parties. Chapter 17. So just let me find that scripture for you. It was 15, I was right the first time. So in chapter 15, in verses 8, it says, God is here talking to Abraham, and he says, bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought all these and cut them in half and laid out each half against the other, but he did not cut the birds in half. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. And as the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram. And behold, a dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. And the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in the land that is not theirs. They will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace, and you shall be buried in a good old age. And they come back here with the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. Then verse 17, when the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking firepot and a flame torch passed between the pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, the land of Kenites, Kenizzites, Kadamites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, Rephaim, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So that was a picture of God making that covenant, and that was common in that time. So it wasn't something unusual that God asked Abraham to do. The kingship covenant of the nations around him, that is how they performed that type of covenant. And it meant that each person had to uphold the various rules of the covenant, otherwise that was an indication of the death that they would suffer. In the ancient world, the covenants came in 3 varieties. There was a grant covenant, a kinship covenant, and a vassal covenant. And there's many controversies around these biblical accounts that we see, but we can study these, and we will study these in a little bit more detail as we go along. But all the covenants that God made with his people as he walked through them were similar to what they were used to having, and you can study in the ancient writings of those civilizations at the time that the way that God dealt with the people was in a similar manner to what they saw around them with the nations. And one thing that defines God, and this is a point to take note of, God acts in according to the covenant that he's currently in. So when he was dealing with Moses, he was dealing with Moses under that covenant. And when he's dealing with us, he's dealing with us under the new covenant. So bless you. This is Julie Mansell from Gem Ministries International.